Hello YouTube, Noel's BT Plus is here to kick off the C90 era, and I'm here to talk about it. He's one of my favorite characters in Final Fantasy, and I'm going to enjoy talking about him here. In this video, before you pull on Noel, I'll go over his kit, what I think about it, and some things to think about before you potentially use your limited resources. If you're new here, I play both JP and Global and use some of that information and experience to inform others. I want to hear what you all think, so go in the comments and let me know what you're thinking about this event. I'm again splitting it up by character, so I'll have separate videos for Sid, Serah, and Onion Knight. I'm going to keep it quick because y'all know how I do. But please support the channel, like the video, subscribe, consider becoming a member, and check out my weekly stream, The Ranting Hour, my recent co-op rant. It's pretty funny, but it got demonetized because I swear too much. So Noel's role is a damage-dealing rebreaker. If an enemy is broken, every single one of Noel's skills will break them again. He's getting a minor rework, crystal level 90, and a BT+. Let's talk about it all. His base skills were not touched. Skill 1 is still AoE, skill 2 is still single target. His LD, however, did change. The attack itself is a double 100% AoE, and the buff from his LD got improved, gave him some more offensive stats, brave HP damage, and attack up. His 90 upgrades give him a few quality of lives. His additional ability now gives him attack and brave cap up. When he breaks someone with his brave plus, the actual brave plus gravity shave is even harder, and landing that actual break instantly charges his EX. The turn right after he gets the break is now free and doesn't take up a turn. His EX is now 3 brave plus HP attack 6 times. Both versions will re-break the target, and it got more splash on it, although this is a bit misleading because the splash he ends up getting is only 1 attack, so the splash damage will likely just cap out at his HP cap. This is Noel's big damage button. His BT+, assuming he's green, when you're attacking a broken target or breaking a target, 30% HP damage up, 50% brave damage up, and 50% brave damage cap up. Lastly, all of Noel's skills become free except for his LD, and his EX charges every other turn, and it will be charged after he uses his BT finisher. So Noel's big damage will come in pulses. I remember reading some YouTube comment that compared him to Vanille in this regard. It was genius, and I wish I could give credit to them, but I don't remember who said it. But he has the on turn where he does his EX, and then he kind of has the mid turn where he uses a skill, and then it's EX again. The extra brave damage and brave caps and HP damage caps means he'll be capping all of those hits and be doing easily over 1 million damage. This can scale even better with other effects in the party and ultimate weapons equipped. This also stacks nicely with his brave split leaning high armor plus. So with all that in mind, how do you actually use Noel in practice? This will be assuming he is fully invested in ultimate weapon, blue armor, green BT, etc. The first thing you don't want to do is use Noel's BT finisher into his BT phase because he will not be able to get his EX back every other turn in his BT phase. He is not like Machina that can BT finisher into BT phase and get a lot of consecutive damage. His BT phase is kind of sorry, but you can use it as a vehicle to get his nuke buttons ready. So really the best course of action would be to BT finisher, and on the last turn that his BT is active, go into the burst phase so you can get that last nuclear EX within the burst phase and then just keep it going. When he gets back out, do the same thing. Try to get his additional ability up in advance so you can get the higher brave caps in the attack so he can do more damage, and just watch the nukes fly. Because his EX is defense ignore, he doesn't need as much support to hit those higher numbers. Using his brave plus while his BT is up is kind of a damage loss. You're probably better off just using a skill because you'll get more HP damage out of it. On top of that, the turn hogging will lower the BT effect for the party. It's really just buff upkeep and EX when you can. So for my analysis, Noel's strengths are that he has great damage. BT damage dealer, shares one of the most popular ultimate weapon categories, being unique. So if you throw a unique on him, you could definitely throw it around to someone else because there's so many of those characters in the game. The re-breaks remain a constant plus for Noel because he has some turn manipulation that the on-demand EX and it being a free turn means he's way more turn efficient. Doesn't feel as bad pressing his brave plus because you know some big damage is coming afterwards. He doesn't really need that much help to hit high numbers, although he can certainly appreciate going even higher. But he's not like Machina in that he's going to be feeling sad, where if he doesn't get the proper support to let him hit those big numbers. As for weaknesses, I don't think Noel has as much destructive potential as Machina. Machina does end up giving party HP cap up, which has a theoretical higher ceiling. Machina wins in HP attacks on his nuke button as well because he has 8, technically 9 HP attacks if you count the AoE and the follow-up, whereas Noel is stuck at 6 on his EX and then another 7 on the follow-up, with an 8 on splash depending on the targets. Additionally, Noel's burst phase being a vehicle to get his BT effect up out of the phase means his burst phase is actually kind of trash. So if you're not abusing any off-turn stuff during Noel's BT phase, it's not going to be insane bursty like Machina can potentially, or lock down the line. He's more sustained damage throughout the entire battle. Weaving in his additional ability and potential brave pluses can get a little awkward. It's incredibly annoying that they didn't put a buff extend on his brave plus, so you might end up having to burn your LD earlier again to get that buff back up. But at the same time, he's likely not going to run out of skills before the battle's over, so that's not really an issue. EX attacks are 3 brave attacks into an HP attack, which means you gotta be hitting real high brave caps and provide enough HP damage up to hit those caps. Ultimate weapons help close the gap, but it is still potentially an issue. And while his EX is nasty, the rest of his skills are not. So Noel's potential teams, first off, I want to give a shout out to Lude, the upcoming character, who gives a bunch of attack up, HP damage up, and he's able to instantly charge EXs. He is Noel's best friend. He can give Noel huge uptime on his EX, so instead of being every other turn, Noel can just EX every turn, and this turns him into an absolute monster. This is one of those god pairings like Sid and Aphmau, Ashe and Aroha, Lightning, Tidus, Aiko. There's a reason they're boosted with each other. So I could just say that's the tweet, but Noel likes enough brave damage to cap his HP attacks, and once he's capping his HP attacks, you can also give him HP damage up to make sure everything else in between is good. You can go raw HP damage up if you don't really care about the brave caps. Once you're capping through all of that, he'll obviously like HP caps. So I could see him appreciating debuff side pain actually for the raw HP damage up and the brave caps from her blue Heimer plus. Noel really likes ultimate weapons, as all DPS do, so I probably shouldn't bother elaborating on that. But that will really close the gap in terms of him hitting his HP caps on his EX. Because if he's not doing that, that's a massive DPS loss and you should be fixing it. Noel has 0 brave gains in his kit, so you don't want to build around that at all. And because his EX is defense ignore, you just want raw brave damage up. So like Lena, who's good with everybody. Chaining rebreaks with Vayne can also get pretty degenerate. Stuff in that area. As for useful fights, since Noel's just a straight up damage dealer, then he'll work anywhere honestly, but some spots he could potentially shine are Transcendent 7, where they get a defense spike and his EX can blow through that, or on Edgar's Intertwined Will, where it's a defense ignore orb. And just speaking from experience, I use Noel in every single fight until I got Zac, because Zac takes priority for me because he's a bigger favorite. But even then, like, I could run Noel pretty much the entirety of the Lufenia Plus era, although he does start to show his age near the end, but it's like 5 months, so he can absolutely go the mile if you need him to. And I didn't even run him with Lude. So what are my plans? As much as it pains me to say this, Noel isn't as big enough as a favorite to make him frame 1 green no matter what like Zac and Cloud are. I loved using him in JP, but I think it gets stale if I try and ran him again in GL. So I'm not going to bother hunting down his burst. I just greened Machina, and there's too much damage overlap there that I just wouldn't use him that often. The same thing happened with me when I tried to use his LD and I had him in the future. I'm expecting to get some kind of upgrade sooner in JP and I'll enjoy him there, but again, I'm not trying to repeat my investments between accounts, so. But I am more knowledgeable about how he works though, and it pains me that I didn't figure him out until later. That being said, I do plan on at least picking up his BT down the line. There's not a guaranteed banner in GL, but in JP there was a lock BT, Noel BT, and Noctis BT banner. And y'all know how I like those triple BT banners to burn my gems on and get tokens for the future, so I'd rather just pick it up there, because I won't be using them now. For the event, Divine Ifrit, I'm gonna be real with y'all. I barely understand this fight. I tried. The fight was different in JP. It was actually bugged in JP. They had a stealth nerf to the HP, so it's a little different on that front. And also the HP regen on Ifrit wasn't working correctly. So there was a myriad of stuff going on wrong in that fight. So actually, let me plug Scott Ong's channel. He's almost at 1,000 subscribers, and he does breakdowns of fights. So if you aren't going to him, like Dissidiainfo, etc., for fight info, I don't know what you're doing. Him and Excalibur are the goats. That being said, I'll give the rough outline. The orb goes back and forth between Ifrit's ad. There's a little orb that heals after every HP damage it takes, and Ifrit's orb will just keep going up. Neither of the orbs here are lethal. It's a reverse orb. But the orb actually starts on the ad, goes down every time you act, and it goes up every time he acts. It's gonna go off eventually, and then you eat an attack afterwards. The annoying part is when the orb is on Ifrit, because the annoying part is when the orb is active. If you don't have exactly 4 debuffs on him, you get a debuff aura. It's M Brave, I Brave, and HP down, which makes you way more likely to die. He frames his turn, and this is when the reverse orb kicks in. It's +1 when you re-break Ifrit. It's +2 when you do an additional attack that is wind damage. So this is meant to sell Sid. But if you wind enchant someone else who also does additional attacks, maybe like Core, Cloud of Darkness, I don't know if Ace counts. But regardless, you're best off if Ifrit's orb reaches 35, because then the orb goes back on the ad and you can do stuff normally. However, most of the fight, I remember in JP, I had no idea what was going on. Neither did a lot of people, and we kind of just fought through it anyways. The reductions here are really, really low. They might just be non-existent. It's just got a lot of HP. So get rid of the HP regen on it and you should be good. Just expect this fight to take a while. Good units, Lena, Orin here, definitely the MVPs. Orin for the off-turn counters, because the orb's gonna just do off-turn attacks. I don't remember the threshold for that. Obviously Sid and Noel to uptick the orb and make Ifrit's thing go away faster. Machina is a god because he'll just cut through all that boss HP. I think Ifrit has reduced launch HP damage, so Reigns is a rip, and it's a fire absorb, so rip Jack too. Jagron will almost certainly burn out here, so he's probably a bad idea. Otherwise, it's kind of just a battle of attrition. Bring a take. It's Snow should be good here. Beatrix probably as well. and you should be good to go. Just strap in. So before you pull, what's my advice? This is purely from a meta, save your resources standpoint, trying to take some things into account if you're on the fence. If you already decided, do what you gotta do. Try to beat fights and content without pulling. So off the bat, if you already have Machina green and or are thinking about greening Locke, I'd say skip Noel's BT plus because there's just too much damage overlap between the three. Obviously they play completely differently, so I'll go more in depth there. I really hate how the million trio thing got warped beyond whatever I was talking about. I just meant they do similar damage, and if you get big damage dealers right next to each other, that's a bit too much roll overlap, but I digress. As I've shown on my channel, Noel can last the entirety of the rest of Lufenia Plus era, but to get the most out of him, you gotta commit. I do not think going for his LD only, outside of, like, if you want to get his LD to speed up your farming, you don't have it already, then maybe consider that. Try it with the EX only units though, but I would not take him seriously as an LD only damage dealer. Without his BT effect active, it's harder for him to cap the HP attacks on his EX each time, and you're going from a every other turn to maybe every 3 turns because he takes 2 skills plus EX to recharge his EX, and that's just too much of a damage loss in my opinion. Plus, if he's LD only, you're less likely to have him blue, so that's an even bigger damage loss. So I'd say if you're not going to green him, if you're not going to blue his armor, if you're not going to get a unique ultimate weapon, don't invest in Noel. Also, if you're struggling with content, I'd say that Noel is not the answer either. You're better off going with Locke and his BT effect keeping you alive. Locke and Ico being a huge boon to players who aren't very good at the game. I am honestly having a hard time recommending anyone pick Noel up, because I really do think that Locke is an overall better unit. Plus, content is so easy. Although if you are planning to get lewd, getting Noel alongside of him I think that mathematically makes them the highest damage potential for a while. Just the constant EXs from Noel. Shout out to my boy Cross13 because I know he's about to be running them. Shout out to him. Get him to 500 subs, by the way. We're getting everybody up in subscribers lately. I can't even say Noel is completely brain dead because that award would go to Locke because defense ignore enchant is silly. Yeah, honestly, having used him, I think he's just solid at best. Nothing broken. We don't know when he's getting an update in JP, but it'll probably be with FR, so that's a new weapon you gotta get anyways. If you're doing fine in content, there's no reason I can really recommend Noel. And if you're struggling with content, I can't really recommend him either because there's Locke down the line. But if you do invest in him, I don't think you'll be disappointed. Just consider picking up loot as well to get him really up there. That's my boy though. That's all I got though. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Again, like the video, check out my other stuff, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later, alright? Peace.